So there was a tweet that came out just the 2 days after the election by Ahmed Al-Bayoumi, who is a Queen's Park political reporter, claiming NDP MPP Catherine Fife will meet soon with Liberal President Catherine McGarry to discuss how the opposition parties, quote, can stop splitting votes and work together to prevent Doug Ford's government from winning another Ontario election. Now, I gotta say, it's honestly incredible. And by incredible, I mean completely fucking absurd to hear both of these parties talking about how they're willing to work across party lines. Would have been a good time to do that before the goddamn election. If, like I said numerous times in the last segment, if the parties actually gave a shit about beating Doug Ford, they could have easily. All they had to do was not vote split in every single riding and just work out a deal. Run one anti-Doug Ford candidate per riding and let the voters sort out the rest. Ford would have been done. But instead, they all doubled down on protecting their precious party brands, and now they get to pretend to be shocked after he's won again. But no, God forbid they actually do politics in the way that might actually work. It's always essentially the same. Performative, we need to work together. That type of rhetoric after the fact, when the damage has been done, because the actual goal for them was never to beat Ford. It was to preserve their little political fiefdoms. They would rather lose on their own terms than share power with each other. And that's what they did. And they did it by design. And Mike Schreiner, you little goof, I'm talking to you too. Like, you could have been a voice of reason in all this. You could have been the one to say, hey, the Greens have zero chance of forming government, but we do have a chance to help block Ford if we coordinate with each other. You could have done that, Mike, but you didn't, because you, just like the rest of them, you care more about keeping your little slice of irrelevant political real estate rather than actually improving anyone's lives. The numbers aren't even complicated. If the so-called progressive parties formed a simple anti-Ford coalition, coordinated candidates so that there was only one viable option in each riding, and told voters, this is the anti-Ford candidate in your area, they would win. Simple as that. But they won't do it because they rather protect their logos, their branding, their little personal political projects than win and then govern. And that's the funniest part, is that they could have built the whole thing around getting rid of the first past the post system, run on a basic anyone but Doug platform, form a coalition, get elected, and the first order of business would be passing proportional representation so that this kind of a coalition wouldn't need to exist. Then they could break up the coalition and go back to sniping at each other under proportional representation, which forces parties to work together because it's way harder to get a majority. So it's painfully obvious, and yet here we are again. And frankly, it's honestly humiliating that me, like an art school dropout with a political education that is formed basically by watching CPAC and pro wrestling at my grandmother's as a child, and that I have better political instincts than the entire professional political class in Ontario. But that's not a mystery, and it's not even the truth. They know exactly how to win, but they choose not to because losing is a part of their business model. Being the opposition is easy. You get to fundraise, you get to tweet about how bad the government is. You get to make vague promises that you'll never have to keep, because winning, on the other hand, means having to govern. And that's where you risk exposing how little substance you actually have. Why take the risk when you can just lose forever and still get money, still fundraise, still get paid? And I said this before the election even started. The most irritating outcome would be that the Liberals gain just enough seats to pat themselves on the back, but not enough to actually improve or remove Doug Ford. And it's all because the opposition were too stubborn and self-important to coordinate. And guess what? That's what happened. And it's not just a provincial issue. It's the same at every level. Municipal, provincial, federal. These center-left parties would rather lose by 123 votes than adopt any type of mildly progressive politics or try to work together to consolidate forces against a conservative opposition. And the problem is because that rocks the boat. As cheesy as it sounds, like the system isn't expecting that. It is radical, but that's the thing. That's why they don't do it, because it rocks the boat. And they're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing and what they would be able to accomplish if they did what I'm saying. And they don't do it for a reason. That is how the game is played. Party survival over everything else, even if it means consistently losing. It's all a joke, except it's not funny because it's our lives on the line and they do not care.